Hey dear, we just watched An Adventure in Space and Time, which is a biopic made essentially by Mark Gatiss, who's been wanting to make it since 2003, but he finally got around to actually being able to make it in 2013.
Yeah.
To commemorate the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, and what's it about?
Well, I'm gonna preface it right now that you were very emotional and I was not, so I'm probably gonna rip this in two. Uh, but like you said, it was a biopic, and it was mostly about William Hartnell, and his experience on Doctor Who and things like that, and like how he didn't want to leave, and just a day in the life of William Hartnell and how his brain got all fucky wucky, and it wasn't great. So,
Cool.
yeah.
So you hate it, I love it. Cool. End of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Do you? I mean, I'm gonna explain it scene by scene as per usual, but that's just pretty much the gist of it. Is what we got. We also do a lot of flash forwards and flashbacks, which is a little bit confusing if you didn't really get it the first time, which I kind of didn't, but then I understood the second time and it's fine. We see a TARDIS actually hanging out in a park, but it's not just any TARDIS, it's actually just a police box. And there's a car that pulls up that has expired tags, and a man walks out of said TARDIS, and...
Not just expired tags, but it specifically tells you what the date is.
Yeah.
It tells you it's October 1966.
Yes. So, a man walks out of said TARDIS, and the person in the car is...
It's a police box, dear.
You gotta let me read my notes how I wrote them? Please?
Whatever.
You gotta let future dear read what past year wrote, because past year is a fucking idiot. Okay? That's the funny bit, right? So, it's the doctor, it's William Hartnell. And the policeman is like, hey, or sorry, the Bobby is like, hey, you need to move the car, you're in the way. And then we cut to someone knocking on a door, asking for William Hartnell if he's ready, and he yells back at the person because he's really cranky. And we see some men in the Cyberman costume smoking and relaxing. And he's really hot in his outfit, but no one is ready. And Hartnell comes onto the set, and everyone's like, shut the fuck up, he's here. Because apparently everyone thinks he's a piece of shit or something. I don't really understand that bit, but
well,
whatever.
He's the big cheese. He's touchy. He's hard to work with. He is the show.
I guess I just don't feel like they should treat him like an asshole. Anyway, he walks up to the console and starts to imagine the TARDIS going about its things and time traveling back to 1963, and we see that by like the clock spins over to 1963 into a flashback. And someone pulls up to the BBC and walks up towards the recording department, and someone's like, you got a fucking pass? And he's like, no. Well, you need a pass. You see this face? I don't need a pass. And he's like, why don't you look it up on Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, editable by everybody.
Hey dear, did you recognize that security guard, by the way?
Nope.
That was William Russell, who played Ian.
Okay. You had a lot of moments like that. You were like, that's this person. Did you recognize them? And I'm just like, no.
Well, you have to remember they're going to be way older than they initially were.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I didn't recognize...
Well, I also was trying to give you benefit of the doubt. I wasn't going to treat you like a child and go, that's this person. I was going to be like, hey, if you didn't notice... Because, hey, I don't think you're an idiot. I think you might have been able to extrapolate, hey, that person kind of looks a little bit familiar. I wonder if it's this person.
I am an idiot.
Well, no, you're not.
A little bit. It's fine. He walks up to the console, imagines things. We go to the BBC, and they're trying to figure out what to put in a 25-minute gap that has nothing. And the head of his department, I believe, is basically going, it needs to be fun. We're not really sure if sci-fi is good enough, but I'm a producer. I like these things. This is what I want to do. And then we cut to a very 60s party going on, and everybody, like, jamming and wiggling back and forth, and they're gossiping about one lady being pregnant, and one name's Jackie and the other is Verity. And they're excited about the first woman in space. The first woman in space, who knew the Russians could do it? And then suddenly there's a phone call, and they ask Verity about doing sci-fi and shit, and how to make it, and they're talking to her about the show, and we've cut to, like, her talking with the producer, and they're like, we want a good-looking couple, and a quirky old man, and a kid, and all this stuff. And they want to teach kids history, apparently, and talks about how there's a doctor, but we'll get to that. And she's like, I don't want to be she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're gonna produce it. Like, Russia put a lady in space. We can at least do that to one-up them. Sort of thing. And also she worked with him, and he wanted someone that he thought was full of, quote, piss and vinegar, and she did have piss and vinegar.
To put it in perspective, what she was meaning was that, like, I don't understand why you're telling me the show, because she was kind of just assuming that he was doing it and he wanted her to work with him again.
Yeah.
When she didn't want to just work under someone. She wanted to work above it. And the piss and vinegar is basically, he wanted someone who wouldn't be pushed over by everyone. Like, to put it bluntly, he wouldn't put a woman in charge if she couldn't deal with all the sexist assholes going around.
Yeah.
Which is why he appointed her.
We see...
Because it's the 60s.
We see Hartnell watching himself on TV while his granddaughter and daughter are playing with dolls. And then the granddaughter, like, tries to play with him or something, and he's like, fuck off, you piece of shit, and doesn't realize kind of what he said. And she runs off crying. And his daughter basically goes like, why'd you do that? He's like, do what? She got fucking paper for ears, and then she leaves. And cloth. Sorry.
Cloth ears.
And then the new producer lady is here and ready to make a thing, and she drives up, and she walks inside of the Halo with Master Chief, and women are laughing at her, men are staring at her, and it's really obvious that no one thinks she could do this, and they don't understand what she's doing there. And they're starting to look around for the face of the doctor, and these two dudes are in her office and ask why the fuck she's there, and they're ignoring her entirely, and also treating her like shit for everything she says. And one of them even takes her side for a word about some shit, and suddenly Hartnell is getting a call from the BBC. Oh boy! And he's talking about how he's going to start some fucking fights because of everything. And he basically says, the other guy that's being a piece of shit to you is going to be your mentor, and that's just how it works. And she's like, no. And the other one is apparently the technical part of it, and he invented a whole bunch of cool shit that the BBC uses. And
wow.
Mm-hmm. Hartnell is talking to his daughter about the part, and honestly, I was more interested in the dog at the time, and it's a really good dog. And she's just, like, explaining it to him, and then at the last second, she's like, oh yeah, it's a kid's show, and just, like, fucks off. And he's just like, the fuck did you just fucking what? Because he didn't want to do a kid's show. The other guy has now left. I don't know if she fired him. I don't know any of that, or if he just left.
Okay, so he was initially meant to be the director of he was the director of the first episode. He was meant to be the director of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he essentially kicked up so much of a fuss that because of everything going on, the shitty everything going on, Verity essentially pushing him around.
That fucking
that
woman.
I believe he just left.
Mm.
I can try and look it up, but I believe he just got fucking fed up with it.
Fragile
he also,
either.
fun fact, he he directed The Gunfighters and contributed lyrics to the song The Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon. But he requested the director's credit be removed from the closing captions of the final episode due to a disagreement over the editing of the gunfighting sequence. He was a bit of a shit guy to work with.
Noted. So, there's a new guy that walks in, and he's like, this fucking caveman script is fucking shit. Like, what do you fucking gonna do? And they're like, okay, well, that's not the worst of it. We're in Studio D, which is really shitty, and the sprinklers go off when it's hot. Remember that. And now they're getting drinks at a bar, and the bartender is racist or anti-Semitic and ignores him. So she comes up and she's like, fucking give me the drinks that I want. And he's like, fuck, fine, Jesus, fuck. Fucking crazy woman. And they're going to show all the men up here, and every one of them apparently thinks that she was laid to get the job, and that she didn't get it of her own
because she's
volition,
a woman.
Because of course. And
also, I've found it. He begged to be taken off Doctor Who and be re-signed.
Okay. So Hartnell is talking now with the two of them to figure out the job or whatever, the theme of Doctor Who playing in the background while they're making it. And they even show how the sound of the TARDIS is made. It's like some house keys, I believe, on a piano wire? Or just a wire?
Yep. House keys on a piano wire.
Gotcha.
Just up and down.
Yeah. So, Bill is perfect for it because he's cranky, obviously, but also because he has a spark that they want. And everyone is here to take photos for the show and eat with Ian and Barbara and Susan, quote unquote. And Hartnell is reading his lines and telling his granddaughter all about it, and everyone is very excited. And everyone is practicing their lines together now on the set about how they meet. And the TARDIS set is apparently delayed because she's a woman and no one wants to fucking work with her. And he's also worried the Doctor's too abrasive, and he wants to know where the twinkle is.
Where's that twinkle? Where's the twinkle? Hashtag where's the twinkle?
In the Twinkie.
Oh.
Yeah, so Hartnell's like trying to figure out what the fuck is happening, and he's kind of getting grumpy. And then everyone fucking steps in to shut him the fuck up by giving him compliments and pop, 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 and
Pop.
yeah, the producer's like, wow, man, I loved you in that one movie that you were so good in. What was the name of it again? Yeah, that one. Yeah. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and you were great in that other thing. What was it? Oh, that's right. You were amazing in it.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what, I thank you.
Yeah. And Sydney basically tells her off to be a fucking producer already and get shit done, because if she doesn't, like, it's her own fault. And so she storms back to design and pulls the seat up, saying that she can be very, very, very patient. And tells the art director that if he really tries, it'd be the best thing he probably ever thought of. But he obviously doesn't want to try. So, that's okay. That's on him. That's understandable. Like, the show just wouldn't be the same without him. Like, that sort of shit. And so he takes, like, what was it? A needle and thread, or a thread spool. A piece...
spool, a cigarette ash tray.
Uh-huh.
And the grid sort of holy paper.
Well, there was, like, a third thing on the console, but yeah.
No.
He puts all these things together, and then it's built! Wowee! And it takes up half the fucking set. And the cavemen are arguing about their teeth. And there's also some racism about how Warris should be used to the heat. And...
because he's in...
And another dude tells the racist cameraman to shut the fuck up. And everyone's, like, really sweating, and the studio's getting really hot. And so they start recording, and everyone is coming into the TARDIS set, and everyone is having a whole bunch of trouble filming because the area is very small. And everything went wrong, apparently, like the doors opening on their own, and the sprinklers going off because it's hot. So there's that, which is very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Sydney wants to change the opening titles and redo the entire episode. And she's pretty much like, no, fuck that, over my dead body. And he pretty much goes, yeah, I'll do that. Sure, I can arrange that. And it's kind of interesting. And Hartnell is upset.
She stands her fucking ground, and I'm glad she did.
Well, yeah, but it's just interesting of a reply is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, Hartnell is upset that they need to redo the episode, but he does want to change the Doctor up, and so they both kind of agree on that the Doctor's too abrasive, and they're like, he needs that spark, he needs to be fun. And she also then tells the others that they need to reshoot the episode, and they do, but he is flubbing his lines, so there's a ton of fucking edits to be done, like 4. But then they did it! The show pilot is done! Woo!
Ooh.
There's some new scripts coming, though, for the next episode from some guy named Terry about robots, but...
it's not robots.
But Sydney is like, no robots! And she's like, no, they're not robots, I swear! And we see someone unwrapping some stuff, and it's while he's rereading the script about the Daleks, and... it kind of plays the idea that it's like both talking about a Dalek and also a fucking gun being unwrapped. And actually, it was showing off that Kidney was shot.
Kidney.
Kennedy was shot, so...
Kennedy was shot.
Nothing bad happens to the Kennedys. Yes.
Yes.
And so Hartnell is watching and waiting for the episode and, like, figuring everything out. And then it switches over to the news and he's like, Kennedy has been shot. And he turns the TV off and he's like, no one's going to watch it. They'll be watching the news instead. And they come up and basically tell Sydney she's way over budget, but it's more that she doesn't know what she's doing. And they aren't to do more than 4 episodes that they already have in production. So Sydney decides to tell her. And... sorry, there's like no breaks in this one. She's arguing for the Daleks super hard because she really believes in it. And she explains like what they actually are, like the whole point that why they're not robots and stuff. And he's like, wow, you really are piss and vinegar all the way. And oh boy... So Sydney will talk to the higher-ups about everything, and she says she wants a rerun of the episode because, you know, Kennedy got shot, and that kind of dominated the fucking news.
So, the real reason... there are slight deviations between sort of documented history and this, purely because, well, you need to make it a better story. So the whole him reading the script while Kennedy's being assassinated, technically the timeline's a bit skewed there. The episode had already been commissioned by the time Kennedy had been shot. In fact, he was shot kind of ironically whilst the episode The Survivors was being recorded. And they had to disrupt the taping because of what was going on. And the reason she wanted a rerun in real life was because it wasn't actually the Kennedy assassination that caused people not to see it. It's because apparently there was a massive blackout that prevented people from being able to watch it. Like a massive blackout that covered a lot of people's houses. So she was like, I want a fucking another chance. Give me another fucking chance.
Yeah.
And they did.
Oh. That's nice of them. Where am I? So, we see a man getting into a Dalek and rolling it around, and everyone's making fun of it, talking about how it's gonna beat some eggs and stuff. And then they're shooting the newest episode, but everyone's actually really intense about it, and you could kind of feel it in the air. And you can even kind of see them talk about, like, wow, these things are actually kind of fucking creepy, like, wow, what have we done? And we cut back to the streets of London, but everyone is watching the hell out of Doctor Who, apparently. Even the Hartnells, which his daughter is excited about her grandpa being the Doctor, and then we see her on a bus I keep saying her. What's her actual name?
Verity.
Verity on a bus.
Verity Lambert. How do you forget a name like that?
Because I have a shit memory.
That's true.
She's on a bus and she is really tired, but then suddenly a bunch of kids stand up and start screaming exterminate and shooting finger guns at everybody. And she's like, wow. And she comes in to tell everybody, but now Sydney wants to see her. So that's not good news, right?
Oh no. Oh no.
They had apparently 10,069 viewers. Nice. And- What?
Do you want to know the actual, like, viewing figures for it?
I just said 10,069 as a joke, but sure, go ahead.
I mean, he said 10 million, which it was 10 million, and they sustained those viewing figures quite a long time. Like, I think a lot of people forget just how fucking watched Doctor Who was. Like, at its peak, the Dalek story, so it started out with 6.9 million viewers. Nice. And it steadily grew from, like, episode 3 is 8.9 million, episode 4 9.9 million, and then from there it's like 10.4 million, and, like, it continues for quite a bit. Like, there are dips in quality, but, like,
yeah,
it just, they fucking keep going.
yeah.
It was a really fucking popular show. And people complain now, like, oh man, fucking... Ever since the 80s, people have started complaining about Doctor Who.
I mean, that's usually
saying,
a sign
it's
of a good
terrible
show,
now,
isn't it?
we should have... It's gone terrible now, the people in charge don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And now it's happened again, now that there's a new showrunner and a new Doctor who's a woman, so it's like, oh, well... And they made a terrible decision. The Doctor's not meant to be a woman.
Yeah.
It's the answer to which is always, listen, it's Doctor Who. If you don't like it, it'll change in a few years. Anyway.
Yeah.
Doctor Who goes on. Things change, people change. Doctor Who is forever.
Isn't that usually the sign of a good show, is that everyone has a different opinion about it, though?
Yes.
So.
Like, the thing is, like, you ask a lot of people, like, okay, I semi-regularly talk about, quote, the golden age of Doctor Who. It's kind of a myth. There wasn't really such a thing as the golden age of Doctor Who. Typically what it means is the 70s run from about 74 to 81, because that's when a lot of people who are adults now ended up watching the show.
Yeah.
Like, my parents watched it when they grew up, and that was their era of Doctor Who. So it's like, for a lot of people, it's like, oh yeah, the Fourth Doctor's the best, because, like, that was when it was really good. It's like, I mean, yeah, it was really good, but it's like, it doesn't mean the rest of it's shit. It just means that's what you watched. Anyway, keep going.
So, we cut back to the current day time machine, and it goes forward by a year. So, we're now seeing more shots from the show. Hartnell is making more mistakes, but everyone at the time is having fun with it. I forget what he said. It was a dick joke, basically. And everyone...
dick joke.
Yeah. And then everyone is on the Marco Polo episode suddenly. The one that we never got to watch, but Ian got his cool-ass shirt from. And Susan comes out and she's like, look at this dress I bought. Isn't it so nice? And he's like, what the fuck? Save your fucking money. Like, shows like this aren't forever. And Ian tells him, like, yeah, like, everybody is replaceable. And then Hartnell's like, oh. And so he sends her apology flowers.
Because as it starts to grow, you and Hartnell sort of get this feeling that the show is about him. He is the show. He is the rock that keeps the show together. Everyone leaves, production sets change, people change, but he stays the same because the show is about him. It is intrinsically, he is the lifeblood of the show.
Yeah. So they're all at a party now, drinking and enjoying, and it's because Warris is headed off to India. And everyone's like, "Woo, go do your stuff, Warris," and he says goodbye. And Hartnell's daughter then comes up in the next scene in a Dalek playsuit, and they're showing off the merch.
Granddaughter.
Yeah. And Hartnell's daughter actually is hanging out with him on a bench in another scene, and a kid comes up.
That's his wife.
It keeps coming across as his fucking daughter.
It's his wife.
Okay, well, because do they just have their granddaughter?
It actually could be their daughter. No, it is granddaughter. Yeah, they just look after the granddaughter.
Yeah, so that's why I was just confused, like, if it was his daughter or his wife. That's all. So, if I fuck up from here forward saying daughter, it's because I meant wife, I guess? Or, I don't know. So, Hartnell and his wife are hanging out on a bench, and a kid comes up and he's like, "Are you the doctor?" And then he gives him an autograph, and then he asks if there's going to be more Daleks because he really liked that. And then suddenly there's like 20 more fucking kids. So he's like, "Alright, let's go on an adventure." And he jogs around the park at a mid-pace and leads them on a jogging trek all around to try to find the TARDIS. And then he goes, "Oh no, look out!" and pretends that there's a Dalek over there, and all the kids run screaming into the woods, never to be seen again.
It's really cute.
I didn't say it wasn't. I didn't say it wasn't.
I know.
So we then see them filming the Daleks on the London Bridge for that one episode. And apparently one Dalek is just fucking it all up. And Hartnell basically has one of the actors come up and asks him if he could do something that would kind of change the script, but not really. And he's like, "No, shut the fuck up, your idea's stupid." And he's actually really angry because Susan is leaving the show this episode. Sad face.
Aww.
And we're shooting the scene of leaving Susan, of course, and he starts to cry on set and forgets that Warris isn't on the set anymore, and he's like, "I'm gonna go for a walk, Warris." And I believe Ian and Barbara's actors basically kind of look at each other and go, "He's been doing that a lot lately." And then we go forward a whole nother year. Ooh. Ooh. Hartnell is frustrated and tired as hell, and his daughter says that he should leave the show soon. And he of course doesn't want to because it's his show and the show wouldn't be the same without him. So the two of them recite lines in bed. And then we also see him coughing up a fucking lung into the sink because he's not okay. And so his daughter talks to Verity about how he's having artery problems, actually, and he wouldn't tell Verity, so she has to. But she doesn't want him to stop acting because he really, really likes the show, but would like his burden to be lifted by just a little bit.
Yeah.
So
give him a little bit of a break.
Yeah. She also, however, is also leaving. So she's got to go talk to her successor about that and let him know.
Uh-oh.
So we cut to the doctor trying to record his lines, but he's forgetting every single one of them now. So he basically just asked to have some lines removed from the show because they really don't need those sorts of things. He's just like, "I can do it with a look. Like, trust me, I can do it with a look." And Verity's like, "Okay, but I need to talk to you." And he's like, "You know what? I need to talk to you too. You're my rock. I couldn't do this without you. I could never imagine you leaving." And then she's like, "I'm leaving."
"I'm sorry. I must leave you now. My home planet needs me."
Mm-hmm. So they're having a goodbye party. And he leaves in the middle of it, actually, and hangs out on the set being sad. And she comes up and says, "Thank you for everything you've done, because it's because of him that she's in demand." And he's like, "No, it's because of you." And she's like, "No, it's because of you." And I should really drink more water while doing this. He doesn't want things to change, though, and they're both sad about things changing. And we now see Steven and Dodo taking photos, and they're filming again. And Hartnell is just being frustrating, but in reality, he's just okay. Damn it, past year. In reality, he's just be consistent, and everyone is just being a pain. Honestly, in reality, I'm pretty sure I meant that he's just having trouble, like, medically, and everyone's just kind of being a piece of shit about it, but whatever.
Yeah. The problem is he's also kind of a piece of shit as well.
Yeah,
makes
it's
hard.
a double-edged sword. He's just kind of the only one that apparently knows how to turn on the TARDIS, and he's like, this needs to be happening, the thing in the middle needs to be moving, like, very obvious stuff. And they're like, well, no one knows how to do that. And he's like, fine, I'll fucking do it. So he bends down and turns it off. Or on, sorry. And everyone's being frustrated and shitty to him. And he's like forgetting his lines by staring into the camera because he had something happen to him. More than likely blood pressure, because I know how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And everyone's like...
Because, I mean, he... Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
Right, okay. Everyone is frustrated, and he's like... is basically like, wow, like, I can't believe he's doing this again, when, like, he's obviously, like, not okay. And they finally ask him if he's okay, and he can't remember anything, actually, and walks off the stage. And now it's 1966, and it's Ben and Polly. Woo!
Woo! There they are.
Ah! Everyone just keeps thinking that he's very difficult to work with, not just, dying, but it's fine. And so they tried to devise a plan, and Sydney has a pop to figure it out. And they're like, we need to do something. And so Sydney comes up with a pop. And Hartnell's granddaughter, wife, is having a whole moment with her granddaughter, is having a whole moment with her grandfather, being like...
I love that you didn't realize the mistake, and now that you have, it's impossible to read your notes.
It's fine. They basically have a whole moment where she's like, where are you going to next? You'll always be the doctor, right? You'll always be the doctor, right? You'll do all the fun doctor things. And he's like, uh-huh. Yeah. Because he can't let his granddaughter down, of course.
Yeah.
And she's pushing him more and more, of course. So Hartnell and Sydney plan a meeting because they both need to talk. And Hartnell starts, and he's like, I think I should have some more time off. Like, I'm just not doing well enough to do this, and I really want to give it, like, 100%, and blah, blah, blah. And Sydney's like, an extended time off, maybe. And Hartnell's like, yeah, no, like, and then I'll come back and be the doctor. And Sydney's like, no. And they don't really understand for a little bit, so that was very fun. And then they finally get the point across that they're going to replace him. So we cut back to Hartnell staring at that police box at the beginning and being entirely out of it. And the Bobby is happy to have met the doctor, though, and he's like, I'm going to tell my kids that I met the doctor. And he's being British and shit, and Hartnell drives off. And he also decides to tell his wife, that he's leaving and everything. And he's like, yeah, like, I'm going to go on to better stuff. And it's going to be really good. But then she's like, okay, like, if that's what you want. And then she starts to leave, and he starts crying and goes, he doesn't want to leave the show. So, flash forward, again, to the final episode. And we see the new doctor going, hi, Mr. Hartnell, I'm going to replace you. This is going to be really fun, being on this show. I'm going to miss you. And
he went, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm terrified.
Nope. He was like, nope, I'm going to replace you. Bye, bitch.
Die in hell, you piece of shit.
Get the fuck out of here. No one wants you.
I hope your daughter or granddaughter comes to pick you up.
Your daughter, wife, granddaughter. Oh, and so they turn the TARDIS on. And it swoops and it whoops and they start the shot. And it's where the Doctor's saying goodbye and everything. And then we see for a moment that he takes a pause and looks over to the left. And we see fucking Matt Smith there. And I was just cackling my ass off because it just felt weirdly out of place.
Okay.
Stop. I understand how you explained it to me.
No, I'm going to ruin the moment even further for you.
But it just felt fucking weird.
Look at the screen. Okay, you see this shot? He's obviously green screened in because it's not meant to look like he's actually there. It's meant to be like a more projection in his mind. Now wait for it. Do you see anything wrong with this scene?
No.
He's meant to be behind the console, dude. He's not behind the console anymore. His body has fused through the console. Such a glaring editing issue.
Honestly.
It ruins that emotional moment. It's hilarious in how no one picked up on it. It's something so simple.
I mean, it's one of those things that no one is going to notice. If like one person okays it, everyone else would be like, okay, like it's fine, and it just easily passes through like that.
Yeah. And I can tell you, a lot of people noticed it. Like one of the top comments on that video, which is an official video on the Doctor Who YouTube channel, is, "Hey BBC, if you want us to believe Matt Smith was really in that shot rather than being green screened, you might want to tell your visual effects people to put him behind the console rather than in front of it."
Yeah. I still couldn't take that seriously just because, like, there's a lot of stuff with the Matt Smith seasons that were just a little bit rough for me, and it was kind of what stopped me from watching Doctor Who, so I couldn't take Matt Smith being there seriously in the first place. Like, I get the symbolism, I do. It was still, like, weird to me. So, go ahead. I'll finish up and then we can get your opinion. How's that sound? Because we're almost done.
Whatever.
Okay. So, we see Matt Smith is there, and then a whole bunch of things recounting each of the actors from where they went. Well, not the actors specifically, but like Warris and Vanity and Matt Smith. Or no, not Matt Smith.
Verity. Not Vanity. She's
Verity.
not a Prince protege.
Verity, Warris, and I hate my brain because I went to Mark Wahlberg and
oh my god.
the Doctor are all like where they
Mark
went from
Wahlberg,
there.
The Doctor.
Yes, where they all went from there, and like how he died. Like, what was it, like 2-3 years after, basically. And then we kind of scroll back over the Doctor Who set, and we hear the Doctor's speech to Susan again. And we come over to one of their TVs where they record from, and his speech finishes out, and then we see the spooky shapes and things in the Dr. Oho entry thing, and then that's the movie.
Yep. So, also another thing about the Matt Smith being there. Mm-hmm. So, he flicks some switches and puts his hand on the dials, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek little reference to that actual scene in the 10th Planet where they have establishing shots of the TARDIS while he stands there, and the switches are actually moving on their own accord. So it's kind of like, you know, a tongue-in-cheek reference of actually it's the ghost of Matt Smith doing it. Mm. It's a little tongue-in-cheek joke there. Mm-hmm. But it's not the best well done. They could have done it a lot of better ways because it comes out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been green screened in. What they try and do... Okay, the reason why it doesn't work. Here's the reason why it doesn't work. Because it is from William Hartnell's perspective, and they're trying to give him the conclusion of it does, like, trying to sort of burst through that fourth wall and tell him it does continue, it goes on forever, and you are essentially immortalized because of this, because of your hard work. The problem is, nowhere else in the biopic is that kind of established. There's up till that point, it's all on board. Everything in the movie itself. There's the only thing that's kind of tongue in cheek are things that the audience notices, but aren't pointed out in the biopic, like past companions having cameo roles in the biopic. Like, they're not sort of pointed out and go, hey, didn't you play Susan? Aren't you actually Susan? Like, no, it's there for the audience to look at. So really, that moment shouldn't have been for Hartnell to notice that the show goes on. It should have been for the audience. So what it really should have been was that he looks over and say some of the production, like he looks over and sees the production like a cameraman, and that's Matt Smith or something. Yeah. Sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing to the audience to sort of go like, okay, you've seen companions here and there, but he's just talking about like leaving the show. He doesn't want to leave it. Is it ready to go on? And you get sort of this green screen of Matt Smith when it's like, wait, what the fuck's going on? He's here now? Yeah. A lot of people seem to not... They seem to miss that the green screening is meant to be on purpose, because he's not meant to actually be in that scene. He's meant to be at sort of a visualization of what's going on in William Hartnell's mind. But because there's that disconnect, he really shouldn't have done it that way. Yeah. They should have had him in person and be more of an audience wink nod, not one for the character of William Hartnell.
I sort of feel like there's the... You know the ridiculous painting of the heroin addict and it's shooting up into Jesus as well?
What?
Okay, hold on. There's a photo of, like, when you do heroin, Jesus does it too.
That sounds awesome.
It basically is, like, has a picture of, like, Jesus inside the person's arm in pain because... he's also doing the heroin, and I sort of feel like there could have been not even, I guess what I'm basically just saying is like a fade in of Matt Smith, like at the controls, and then fading back to William Hartnell. Something like that would have just seemed a little bit stronger. I don't know. It's just it's so weird to me.
Even if it's like they a crossfade to like Matt Smith at his console, sort of going through the same thing of like on his last day, sort of like, are we ready to shoot my regeneration scene? Sort of like a crossfade to that, to sort of be like, that would have been a better wink nod to the audience to been like, it goes on for forever.
It's not like, it's not fucking Hartnell seeing the future.
No, it's not Hartnell getting this wink nod into the future, because it doesn't really fit with the rest of the biopic. They could have done it so many different ways, but I still think it does its job, at least in some face.
Yeah. So I guess I will preface it that, like, I probably, because of everything that's going on with me, with the fact that I have PTSD, because of my health issues, I probably would have been more emotional at the fact that, like, William Hartnell is having literal fucking heart problems and memory problems, which I'm also, like, trying to fight currently. Like, I probably would have been more emotional watching this with you if we had watched it, like, I don't know, 2 weeks before this or so. So that, I would say that's kind of my fault, but also it's not. It's not. There's nothing I could have done about everything that's happened the past 2 weeks. So, I do admit I probably could have taken it a little bit more seriously, but I'm just not in the mindset for it, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, so end of the podcast. Completely. That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
Always.
We were only watching the first Doctor.
No, yeah, that's completely it. We're never watching anything ever again.
Nope, never
this
again.
This was a mistake. I regret it. I'm sorry. Goodbye. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, we might... So I'm just going to go ahead and say we might have some other podcasts coming up in the future. But for the moment...
Well, I don't want to really talk about that until we, like, actually plan it, because otherwise we're just saying, hey, there's something coming.
Yeah, I'm saying that we're hopefully get another thing coming. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but we've been saying that for, like, the past 3 fucking podcasts.
I don't care. I want to get people excited about talking with Spooky.
I would rather, like, people get excited when we, like, know what it's going to be.
Fair.
Rather than just be like, hey, there's something, sometime.
Yeah.
And then the next week be like, hey, there's something, sometime. And then the next week be like, hey, there's something, sometime.
Well, how else would you like to end this? Because I'm not rating this one. There's no point to rating
No, you shouldn't rate this one.
Yeah. 2.
Yeah, this is...
Anyway.
Wow, really?
No, God, no. I
was gonna say, that legitimately would have hurt me if you rated it a 2.
God, no. I, as someone who likes watching documentaries, I have a little bit of trouble watching biopics, like remakes of things like this. But it wasn't that bad, honestly.
The thing that makes it worth it for me is that it doesn't take too many liberties. The main liberties that they take are things like when he holds up the Doctor Who book, the annual, where he's like, look at this is us. During the filming of the Reign of Terror, that book came out technically like after the Web Planet, so it's like they wouldn't have had that book then, but it's like it doesn't really matter because it doesn't change things too much. Or like the Charles de Gaulle, the de Gaullic cartoon that came out like a few months after the filming of that episode, but it's like those are the types of liberties that they took.
Yeah. The stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah, the thing is also the biopic glosses over so many things. Like, you only really get to see 1 or 2 directors. Like, there are so many fucking like nearly every single episode had a different director. That's why, like, you don't see the other showrunners either, or the script editors. So many important people to Doctor Who, because like they gotta focus this thing. And they do. But it's a good one. Anyway, next week is the second Doctor. We're finally there. One of my favorite Doctors. And it's The Power of the Daleks. A 6-part. Every single episode is missing, but that's okay, because they have completely animated them all.
Okay.
And I know Dear's gonna hate it, so get ready for that one. Yay. You got anything you want to say that isn't about any podcast?
Happy Halloween?
Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Can I say that we're gonna try to do one on the 29th, or no?
I mean, you can if you really want to.
I mean, I was gonna just mention that we're gonna try to shoot for another spooky movie night on the 29th, as a Halloween bonus, because it's horror movies. We might as well.
Yeah, may as well.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we'll give more details when we figure out what it's going to be and when it's going to be. So,
yeah.
see you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.